What's going on, guys? So I am out here in Tampa, Florida at the Florida RV Super Show, and we are taking a look at this absolutely beautiful sport chassis medium duty hauler. This is what folks who are looking at Lux, DRV, and some of those really heavy ultra luxury fifth wheels oftentimes gravitate towards to haul them, because you have a lot more payload capacity, you have a lot more towing, there's a lot of safety built into them, the ability to actuate air brakes, things like that, and a lot of reasons why somebody might be interested in a vehicle like this to tow those heavier trailers. We're going to talk about it. Hang tight. I'll be right back. All right, so I have Brian with me, who is with Sport Chassis. Brian, you want to kind of introduce yourself and what you do?
Sure. I'm Brian Annis-Hansley. I'm one of the sales guys, our sales reps with Sport Chassis, LLC. We're out of Clinton, Oklahoma. All these are built right in Clinton. We were a part of Freightliner for years. The product was actually developed through the Freightliner system and went from there. But we spun off about 10 years ago and are building them privately now. And I've been with the company for about almost 30 years now. So I've kind of grown up with these trucks, selling them and getting them set up for everything.
So you know everything about them.
Well, I don't know about that, but I know a lot about them for sure.
All right, well, first and foremost, let's talk about your target RVer,
sure.
Right? So in the RV market, of course, you have bumper pull towables, you have toy haulers, you have fifth wheels. Yep. Traditionally, when somebody comes to Sport Chassis and says, I want a truck, I have an RV, what type of RV are they usually hauling?
In our RV market, we're looking at that customer that for years they were typically a full-timer. They're somebody that has retired, sold everything, they're living the American dream now. It's typically, if you're looking at the RV on the outside, it's a 3-axle RV. It's something that is a little bit more weight. They're carrying everything with them, and they're wanting to go wherever they want to go with it. So.
And traditionally, I'm guessing, and again, when we talk 3 axles, we're talking about the weight of the RV, but oftentimes, more importantly, the pin weight of the RV. Yes. How much weight is vertically pressing down on the back of the vehicle,
absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
So, on average, what is the actual payload carrying capacity of a sport chassis?
So, if you're looking at a sport chassis, and you get this question all the time. So this truck right here is set up, and this is our smaller version. We have a bigger version of this, but this truck is set up to where it pin weight, you've got about 6,500 pounds that you can put on the back on actual pin weight, and a combined weight rating of about 40,000 pounds that you're putting on this vehicle.
So the GVWR of a truck like this is what, about 24,000?
This is 19.5.
19.5.
So
and you said this is the smaller one?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, how high can you go from a pin weight perspective on your heavier duty versions of these?
Really the heavier duty version, you're going to get up to, you're going to top out about 8,000 pounds. Okay. And really after that, you're looking at needing more axles on the back.
Like a Cascadia or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and really the RV market doesn't have anything. Well, besides that.
Besides that right there, yeah.
And that's way too big for anything that we build.
Which is crazy. And let's talk about that real quick. I'm glad you brought that up. So that spacecraft, in case you didn't know, right there, has a GVWR, I forgot what he said. I think he said like 45 or 50,000 pounds, 11,000 pound pin weight.
Yes.
11,000 pounds. And a lot of people automatically assume, well, this kind of looks like a semi-truck-ish. It's a medium duty vehicle. Is this a class 6 vehicle?
This is a class 5.
Class 5, okay.
And it's actually titled as a pickup.
Okay.
So it comes with its full hydraulic brakes, automatic transmission. You don't have to have any special license to drive this. And that's what differentiates it from whenever you step into that. I mean, you're going to have some special licensing. You're going to jump up into air brakes, and that's a big truck.
Yep. So something like this, when we're talking about an RV, let's say a Lux, perfect example, you're going to have about 6,000 pounds worth of tongue weight on a fully loaded Lux.
Yep.
The RV itself is probably going to be roughly 50 feet long in that range, 46 to 50 feet long, and it's probably going to weigh in the 30,000 pound range.
Yep.
Which is really ideal for something like this.
Yes.
Right? And that's even almost approaching the larger end for this specific truck as well.
Yeah. If someone came to us with that trailer, they could pull it with this, but we'd really be pushing them into what we call an LH7, where this is an LH5. That LH7 has a bigger engine, bigger transmission, bigger brakes, and it's going to have a little bit more carrying capacity. You're going to be more comfortable in that LH7 pulling that bigger Lux than what this would do. Really, we're looking at this truck to top out of that 24 to 26,000 pound trailer. Once you're pushing up over that, we're really going to suggest that you get into that LH7.
Gotcha. So for something like this, that would be your DRVs.
Yes.
That would be your Riverstones.
Absolutely.
In that range, your heavier redwoods, things like that, and some of your heavier toy haulers.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's really cool, and I appreciate you being so honest about that, because there's a lot of misconceptions around vehicles.
Absolutely.
People look at something, they see 22.5-inch Alcoa wheels or whatever type of wheels you have, and American racing wheels, and they're like, obviously this is a semi-truck, it can do all that. Now, from a diesel engine perspective, what power plant does this have?
So in this LH5, we run 2 different power plants. We can run a DD8, which is a Detroit engine. It's pushing out 375 horsepower and 1,100 foot-pounds of torque. And it's coupled with an Allison TRV 3200 transmission, which is a 6-speed Allison. In our other engine is a Cummins, is an L9 Cummins. It's 360 horse, still pushing out the 1,100 foot-pounds of torque, and it's mated with that Allison TRV 3200.
Okay, are they the same 2 options that you get in the heavier duty truck?
The heavier duty truck comes with a DD13, so it's a 12-liter engine, so it's a lot bigger engine, and it's mated. It's 505 horse, 510 horse, somewhere in there. And it's putting out about 1,650 foot-pounds of torque. Okay. And it's mated to an Allison 4000 series.
Okay, so that is more in line with the full semi-truck.
Yes, absolutely.
But the chassis is also what you have to be concerned about.
Correct.
It's not just your power plant, it's not just your transmission, it's the axle rating, it's your suspension, it's everything that's tied into it.
Yep.
Traditionally, what type of hitches do you see people putting on these?
So we run 3 different hitch options on these that we put through, and we've got a 5th wheel plate that's connected directly to the frame rails, so you're pulling directly off the frame. And these will have either a 2 5/16 toe ball, which is more of an equine type gooseneck setup. We've got a Reese 30K that's drilled for. Or we see a lot in this, especially in the bigger RV industry, using a trailer saver air ride.
Yep, trailer saver is real popular in this space, especially even on conversions. Now, a lot of folks get Volvos, they get these other trucks, and they remove an axle and they convert the truck from a heavy-duty truck to something like this. And of course, most of the times, those are Class 7 or 8 trucks. So we're talking about a Class 5 vehicle, which overall is going to be lighter. But what would a perk be in getting a sport chassis or a sport chassis vehicle over perhaps doing a conversion?
So that's a great question, and this is what sets us apart from everything else out there. We are an OEM completion company, so we're an OEM manufacturer. Whenever you buy a sport chassis, you're not buying a Freightliner and then taking it to somebody and doing the conversion on it. So in every state, we're licensed as a manufacturer. Our titles come out. The MCO reads heavy duty pickup truck.
That's a big differentiation.
Insurance is easier to find on a sport chassis, because if you're ever in a wreck, and hopefully you're never in a wreck, but people do get in wrecks, the insurance company can go put a value on this as a vehicle, not as a cab chassis, and then it's your word on what the conversion cost and everything else. So you get better insurance rates on them. You get better, it's easier to license them with your states and everything else. So those are the big advantages to buying a sport chassis over anything else.
Can we hop inside of the truck?
Absolutely.
And you want to get on one side and I'll get on the other so we can continue?
You want to on this side and I'll go get on the other?
Sounds good to me, brother. I know so many people have been waiting for this. They've been wanting to see the interior of the truck, and I'm like, okay, I better show you the interior of the truck. It's a little warm in here, but it's cold outside, so
absolutely.
I think it'll be okay. So, real quick, let's talk about this. There's a few things I do want to get to, and we're going to talk about a comparison between owning and driving one of these versus an F450 or an F350. But we'll get into that in a second. Let's talk about what you guys do here on the interior.
Typically, not your typical truck interior. If you look at this is based on the M2 class of Freightliners that come out. In that M2, we take the M2 and we strip it completely out and then build it from there. We go in and we put sound insulation in the cab. We've gone in and taken about 18 decibels of sound out of the standard M2 cab, so it's a quiet ride. We go in and then put heat insulation in it, so it's helps you out in cooling it or heating the cab. One of the big things, 10 years ago, we developed for Freightliner a product called the Cab Comfort, which it's a big cab. There's a lot of space in here.
There's a tremendous amount of space in here.
Freightliner had no rear air conditioner in it, heater air. They came to us for years. Freightliner used us as kind of their skunk works. If they had projects that weren't 10 to 15,000 truck minimum, their engineering didn't want anything to do with them. So they used us as the engineering piece for that. We developed a piece called the Cab Comfort. So this has a rear heat and air system in it. It's ducted up through the ceiling, so you can see the deals here. And it runs separately from the AC and heat unit in it. So it helps cool the cab or helps heat the cab that's in there. Those get put on at the Freightliner plant, but they're actually built at our plant in Oklahoma. Everything developed for this. Used a lot in the fire rescue service and everything else. We also come in and most of our customers are used to stepping out of a luxury vehicle, and they're not buying a truck to go make money, or it's not about the truck. They're going to have fun. They're going to have a hobby or do something fun or be out there doing. So their expectation and their expectation level for the vehicle is for it to be very similar to what they stepped out of. Now, on a work truck, that can be, there presents some challenges in doing that. Sure. So we've developed this interior back, 15 years ago, 18 years ago when the M Series chassis came out in Freightliner. We were still a part of that. We did our market research, and it told us that honestly about 70% of the time it was a female that was making the buying decision. Mm-hmm. And there's something about men, just from the outside, we have some inherent gene that we all want to be truck drivers, and that's why we leave an air horn in it. That's why it's big and it has that up there. So, but it was, we tried to set this up, and you'd be surprised, literally about 35% of our customer base are female between 18 and 24 years old that are not wanting to be truck drivers. So we set it up to where we took comfort in mind, we took style in mind, and we took safety in mind. It was the whole deal, and that's how we developed this. So that's where you get everything that we build is an automatic transmission. There's no option of, if you want to be a gear jammer or something else, that's just not. That Allison transmission is the best transmission that's out there for it, and has been for 30 years. Everything's electrified that we can. Everything's automated that we can. We put nice stereos in them so you can actually hear and listen. Apple CarPlay works. Everything's tied in.
What about safety? Does it have all the blind spot mitigation, all the stuff like that?
It does. Freightliner has done a wonderful job. It's taken most heavy trucks are typically about 15 years behind the automotive industry. So yes, all of that's in here. Adaptive cruise. Oh wow. Lane mitigation, blind spot. All of that are optional in the trucks that they can buy. So.
Well, good deal. Well, now let's step outside of the truck. Sure. This is getting hot in here.
Absolutely.
And I also want to tell you my comparison. I want you to tell me if I am crazy,
sure,
or if I'm accurate.
Sure.
All right, so we are back outside taking a look at the front of this beautiful sport chassis truck. I really want one, to be honest with you.
We can make that happen.
I've talked to my wife about it. She actually really likes them too. But the question ultimately people have is this as easy to drive, maneuver, and take to places as our F450 is? And here's what I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I like to set proper expectations, not my dream expectations. My dream expectations is to tell my wife, heck yeah, I can take this everywhere I can take my F450. It's the same width, all of this stuff. But then I start to think about it a little differently, and I'm like, you know what, my 450 is a little narrower in the front, so that means something when you're driving and maneuvering. It's only 8 feet in the back at the hips. It's much lower to the ground, so drive-throughs, going through any of that type of stuff, it's going to be easier. Maneuverability, I'm assuming that this, just like almost all of your heavy-duty style trucks, have really, really good steering and turning angles. F450 does, F350, Ram 3500 GM, not so much. But from a maneuverability perspective, I would imagine that this maneuvers really, really well for its size. But what's your take on it, knowing what I just said, the things that I just mentioned?
So my take on it is, and we've always told these are as easy to drive as there is out there. It drives just like a pickup. You're exactly right. You're setting up a little bit taller, but your visibility is a lot better out of this thing. You're not going to go through the drive-through in it. You're not, because most drive-throughs have that 9-foot pole that's over there. It's taller than that. You're not going to go into a parking garage in it,
or a car wash,
because it's gonna hit. So you give up that in there. This vehicle right here is only about 4 inches longer than what your F450 is. And you're exactly right. The vehicle was set up as an inner city pickup and delivery, is how this whole medium duty class was designed over. So it has what they call a cutback axle on it, and it'll outturn your F450 by about 18 feet. It'll turn inside of it.
Really?
So,
yeah. The F450 is pretty amazing.
Yeah, pretty amazing, yeah. A lot better than, it'll turn inside an F350 by about 22 to 25 feet.
That's impressive.
It really is easy to drive, that ease of driving. Now, the other thing that we tell everybody, you can use it as your grocery getter. You can go, we have customers all the time that are driving them as their daily drivers, this and that. It's a $200,000 vehicle. You're probably not going to park it up front at Target and let everybody in their Prius bang their doors on the side of it. It'll fit in a standard parking spot just like your F450 would, but you're probably not parking your F450 up front there too. So those are some of the give up things that you do on it. You're exactly right. It's actually no wider than what your pickup is. Where they seem wider is on the beds that we put on them. We're actually stretching the bed so you have more bed width in there, so you don't have that big dually pod hanging off the side that's covering up the wheels. So the beds get a little bit wider and go from there. The big thing with that is you can see one of our products that we sell, we call it a P4 XL. It sells really big into our boat market, but that P4 XL actually has a pickup bed on it.
Yeah, I've seen those.
That shows it out there, and it's this exact same bed that's out there. So
very cool.
Pickup bed.
Well, you've given a tremendous amount of information. The one I do want to ask that everyone will want to know is fuel economy. What can you typically expect unladen, and then let's just say towing a heavy fifth wheel?
So unladen in our DD8, you're probably going to get about 12 to 13 miles to the gallon. When you go put your fifth wheel on it, when you put a load on it, it's probably going to drop it down to about 11 on there. The Cummins engine is going to get 11 to 12, drop it down to about 10 loaded. So the DD8 is more efficient. It's a newer engine. All of the emissions are designed into that DD8, where the L9 Cummins is an older platform, and all of the emission stuff was bolted on into there. So
what's your recommended service intervals on this?
Really recommended service intervals, you're going to change the oil about every 10 to 12,000 miles, especially on our customer. It's not unusual to see a customer that has bought one of these, especially in our RV market, that's putting 8,000 miles a year on it, or 12. You know, not very many miles. That engine was built to run 1 million miles in about a 4 or 5 year lifespan, and our guys don't get anywhere near that at all.
But no, that's been a lot of great information because people really want to know. I only feel from a maneuverability perspective, steering, yes, but your front fenders on the front end is going to be wider than an F450 front end. So just keep in mind that There is some convenience factor to a pickup truck when you back in at a grocery store.
Yep.
You have room to get out where you may not have much room to get out of this. So that's why most people with these, if you see them, they park at the back of the parking lot. It's just like parking a semi-truck. So you just have to keep that in mind. But beautiful truck, man.
Thank you.
Really. I need to probably come up to where you guys are at so we can do some maneuverability testing.
We'd love
and
to
some
do
fun
that.
things. I think that'd be great.
Absolutely.
Awesome, brother. Well, Brian, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yep, guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up. We'll talk to you again real soon.